James Baldrick. You might know me as Dirty Limelight, but I'm the owner, founder, editor-in-chief of 719 Magazine, Southern Colorado's music scene. And we've got the legendary Black Pegasus in Mount Olympus Studios doing this interview. And this is going to be our first cover story for the magazine. A little brief history behind this whole story. Over a decade ago, Black Pegasus agreed to be on the cover of what was once 719 Magazine. We even had a photo shoot and everything.
Didn't we go to Monarch?
Yeah, we went to Monarch.
Yeah, that's tight.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was tight.
Yeah, it was nice. Lovely ladies. I think it was like -10 degrees and they were out there in swimsuits, but it was great. It was good times. But here we are over a decade later, and Black Pegasus still feel you're just as deserving. We've followed you for many, many years. This has been a long time coming. We're excited about this. We are honored to have you as our first issue cover story for 719 Magazine, Southern Colorado's music scene, where we cover all genres of music, all artists, big and small. It's just going to be a collaboration of a lot of different things. So we are honored to have you here with us.
My man, thank you. And I'm honored to be a part of it, man. I'm glad to see you moving and shaking. I know you've been through some trials, tribulations, and you've overcome a gang, and here you are, here we are, still just plugging away. So, man, I'm all for it. To be real, man, a lot of people have been trying to get me to do stuff, and I was like, I felt like this would be special, but also I see your story as inspiration. And my thing is, like, there's this brother that I've been doing reactions to on YouTube. His name is Ren. He did an interview on our channel when he did not have to. When we were a smaller channel, he gave us that olive branch. And it was one of the things that reminds me that I always want to pay it forward too. And just like every now and then, it's just like work with good people just because they're good people. It's not about the cloud. It's not about your numbers. It's just like, hey, man, this is inspirational. So vice versa, my dude.
Thank you, brother. We're honored to have you. You know, we have a few set of questions for you, and really it's just to get to know you and, you know, where you come from. And also, I love your content. I followed it for quite some time these past few years, and I've seen your numbers increase, and we'll get into that. State of Colorado just wants to know some things about you. One of those things is, where does the name Black Pegasus come from? I've always wondered myself, and Brass Knuckle Entertainment, shout out to Brass Knuckle. I'm just curious on, you know, what's behind the name and the origin of that.
The short answer to the name Black Pegasus is the meaning behind it is poetic inspiration to people in darkness. The way I came up with that was, you know, and I'm not some Greek mythologist. I was at Future Call back in the day working. Okay. And I was writing some rhymes. And my partner who does the podcast with me, he used to rhyme. In the verse I wrote, I put Black Pegasus. It's a dope, word structure for what I was rhyming. And he was like, "Is that you, Black Pegasus?" And I was like, yeah, that's me. The Pegasus was like a muse, to, I believe it was Zeus or something like that. So, black representing like the darkness. So poetic inspiration to people in darkness. And that was in 1997. I was like 17. Wow. So, now you'll get online, people are using the word Pegasus and stuff, but when I came up with the name, it was mad corny. Like, people were like, "Oh, this dude," like, you know. But then I've kind of grown into the name, and I think when you just show up and be consistent, people vibe with it. The Brass Knuckle Entertainment, that came from my partner, Don, who I do the podcast with. We were starting to get some traction back in the day as FOS. We were in a group called Fusion of Syllables, Focus on Skills. And we were working with the Acumen, and we were working with a couple other local artists, and we wanted a label to kind of house everything. One of our first ideas was like Think Tank Records and something else. Once I started my solo career, I was like Brass Knuckle Entertainment. And one of my buddies, my boy Kevin Dwight Johnson, shout out to him, he gave me this idea. He was like, 5 fingers make a fist. He's like, each finger can represent every race, black, white, brown, yellow, red. Nice. And the brass knuckles are the music, and it brings people together. And then, of course, awesome. This is like a strength.
See, and I never knew that, but that's powerful. Awesome, man. Man, that's awesome to hear, man. I saw even around that time, you know, a lot of things that you were doing before I even like began my promotion career. Yeah. And so I know that somewhere along those lines, there was some inspiration there. To know that there's such a solid foundation of your origin, that's awesome.
Well, I came from the era where they believed that there's a lot of power in your name, so make sure there's meaning behind it.
Yeah.
There's a negative connotation with the word black. Just naturally, you have Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker.
Yep.
I remember my buddy Stevie Stone, who you just saw outside.
Yeah. Shout out to Stevie Stone.
When Liquid Assassin introduced me to him, he got nervous. He was like, yo, is he like a Satan worshiper or something? Because he thought my name was like Black Pagan or something like that. So, you know, there's
Perception.
been some, because I'm a pretty conscious brother. I'm about positive energy. Put in the work so your name reflects that, because I had to show up and kind of let people know what I was about.
Yeah,
like
and I appreciate that. Speaking on YouTube channel, 40-year-old FUQ boys, I want to congratulate you personally. I know you don't get enough recognition. 117,000 subscribers now.
Yes,
almost 120. You know, that's a huge accomplishment coming from this community, you know, for people out here. So we're really proud of you for that. Concerning some of your topics, I noticed that there's a lot of things that we share the same views with. Yeah. One thing that you did mention, you were speaking on, you know, the message some artists are putting out there, you know, the negative messages, the destructive messages that are being put out there by certain types of artists versus the censorship issue. So where do we as artists, is there like a responsibility that we have as artists, influencers, promoters, content creators? Is there like a balance that we should find? So the reason why I'm asking you is because I think of artists that kind of started a part of a genre like NWA or 3 6 Mafia, you know, different foundations of the hip hop culture that really spoke about some near satanic type subjects. But still here, you know, we have a whole entire, you know, following that has gone on for over decades. And just now we're starting to see a more sensitivity to it. You know what I mean? So where would you say as artists, can we find that balance or medium, you know?
First and foremost, I believe in like absolute freedom of speech. So I do believe in people expressing themselves, where they come from. We do have a problem. I don't totally know the answer, because I feel like the problem has been manipulated. It's not just the artist. As a man who takes accountability, I believe that we have responsibility to stay true to ourselves. And so we're all going to be at different stages at life and what is true to you. And I personally bear the responsibility. Like, you know, sometimes I'll do raunchy humor or certain things. You know, I'll play around with certain things, but there's certain things I do not toy with, because I personally feel that I bear a responsibility to myself, my child, my community, my family, my name. Having that a type of accountability in society would, you know, do better. Mm-hmm. You know, as you were laying out that question, this is what came to mind. There was a moment in time where you had Public Enemy, you know, you had
Fight the Power,
KRS-One, Poor Righteous Teachers, and you had this explosion of the African, remember the African medallion, everything. And so to see that, then we went to the gold rope, and we went to like the cocaine era, then the crack era, and then where we're at now, where the popular thing is Pound Town.
Yeah.
But in the crevices of YouTube, there's still popular underground stuff rising.
Right.
But the corporations don't promote that.
It doesn't hit mainstream. Right.
And the mainstream is kind of dictating these narratives in society, which goes down these funnels to places of poverty, which can a lot of times have more black, but it's going to go down to whatever you want to say,
minority,
to the class of people who don't have money, who use to understand.
Level,
but essentially, it's going to go to the inner cities and this messaging, and then you just see this overload of things happening. And so when you don't have balance, which we spoke about, because there's no accountability, that's where I believe it's problematic. Now, again, I believe if you're from the projects, you're rapping about your life, I don't look down on you, you know?
Right.
Do I think it should be glorified? I think me personally, I'd be like, yo, these are things that I deal with, you know, presented in a way it might seem cool to some people, but the glorification of, you know, meaningless sex, promiscuity, But this is also coming from a man a clumsy human being. I'm not perfect. I have things I'm working on now. As you get older, you want to see better for the generations to come. But I think because it's like a pendulum, right? So the wave of all this nonsense being so extreme, I believe the pendulum will swing back, because what I also, in telling you about the gold ropes and the African medallions. I know you'll remember this time. It was the Democrats and the conservatives stomping on Snoop Dogg and Tupac CDs in the record stores.
Yeah,
remember?
I do remember that.
So
think with America's Most Wanted and all that, everything that was
NWA,
going on.
These different things. This is going to ruin our country. Yep. Then we get the freedom of speech, okay? Fast forward. Now, this is happening in real time. You might not know that, but there's conservative rappers, and they're rapping about the pandemic. They're rapping about the thing we can't name on YouTube. They're rapping about the virus we can't name on YouTube. And they're getting banned from Spotify for having a different narrative.
That's
so
crazy.
Isn't it ironic?
It makes you think who's behind it.
Yeah, because we had conservatives and like stepping on CDs. Now we can listen to Pound Town. We can listen to Take All These Perks, Shoot Up the Club. Right. But you can't listen to a conservative black rapper rap about what he believes in politics. So that's where we're at. So when I tell people to wake up, it's even though you might not like conservatives right now, this is the moment where it's like, okay, you got to be able to see history, right? You got to be able to see how the FBI infiltrated the Black Panthers and how the FBI infiltrated the J6 people.
You're right.
And people don't want to see that because it's a racial thing. And I'm just like, bro, like I'm not trying to stand up for J6, but I'm like, just remember they did this to us too. Don't think it's above them to do it to them when it meets their narrative. Mm-hmm. So it goes the same with the music. It's hand in hand. I believe if we start taking accountability, stay true to our art, that pendulum will shift and get us. I don't believe there's a utopia. We should have all this peace and love music. I just think it should be a balance.
And I agree with a lot of what you're saying right now, especially, with how they target certain artists like Pac, Snoop. And then, you think about even back in the 60s how they did Elvis. They did a couple artists really dirty. But then when you look here 20 or 30 years later, and you see how things are now. And it's crazy to hear you say that because I share a lot of those views now, even with my own content, just based on insights like this, and how this affects, because vibrations, frequencies, they affect people. But moving on, I did check out some of your recent music. Tell us about Space Invaders featuring Gadamus, Assess Crew, shout Assess Crew.
So the depth of my music currently, I'm going to go kind of deep on this. Space Invaders is just a boom bap hip hop song, where I go lyrical miracle, 90s, early 2000s
It's fire,
style.
by the way, fire. Check it out.
The reason I just started leaning into doing what I loved is because I decided at one point that I was trying to chase something because times were changing, because sound was changing, because of all these things, which is fine. Like, I think you should grow. And I have grown as a lyricist, but I also had to get back to doing something I love, and it's more traditional, and it's more what they'd call the purist. So I went on tour through all of Europe with All Flows Reach Out. R.A. the Rugged Man put me on that tour. And I saw in Europe there was an extreme appreciation and love for what I would call traditional hip-hop, boom bap, or purist style hip-hop. And it reignited my inspiration to stick with what I know and what I love. Every now and then I go on a limb and do something crazy modern with my lyrical patterns or use a trap beat. But essentially, I decided to make music for something that I just feel personally, because I tell people, let me know what you honestly think. And some of the biggest complaints would be, you try different beats or different this, that, and the other. And I take that criticism, but then there's a huge wave of like, oh my God, this reminds me of when I was in my 20s or this, that, and the other. And I know I'm an artist that can do a lot of different things right now. This is just where I'm at. I don't know how long it will be here, but I'm just enjoying doing this thing that I'm very passionate about that I didn't get to do at a high level in the 2000s. I did where you saw it, but it wasn't at this level because I didn't have access to different productions.
Oh, you've evolved. Just hearing, stepping out and stepping back in, you have seriously evolved. That's coming from, a critic of music. Yeah. So
I want to have like a modern boom bap sound. Man, that is my goal to
I
get
love the
there.
Direction.
But
man,
when I was young, I only had one producer, which was a beast. Shout out to Bass Jace. Yes. But as I grew, I needed to be able to do different things and experiment. And now, because of technology, I'm able to do that. And so I don't know what I'm doing, man. It's crazy because I'm 40 years old, but I'm at the height and at the peak of writing and understanding how to make a song. And like every song I make and I put out, you might not like it, but you can't say that it's like, there's qualities there.
No, there's skill.
It's packaged, polished. Right. You could say, I don't like this, I don't like Black Pegasus, but there's quality, and my style is polished to a level where I finally can even admit it. There's songs that people don't hear because I'm polished enough to be like, this isn't good enough. Let's take this back. And I wasn't like this when I was younger, and it's just because I've come of age and I understand my music.
That's that self-awareness. You must have learned jujitsu.
Yeah, no doubt.
No, that's that self-awareness, though.
Yes, sir.
And it's just, I got to say publicly, I'm beyond proud of you, just in my journey. And
I appreciate that too,
yeah,
man.
for sure, bro. So what's next for Black Pegasus and Brass Knuckles Entertainment, and of course the YouTube channel 40-Year-Old FUQ Boys? What's next on the agenda, man? Like, give us a sneak peek of what's about to happen, because I know y'all got some things cooking. That last Tech 9 show, outdoor arena show here in the spring. So I mean, the feats that you're accomplishing, it needs to be recognized. So that, what's next though,
So unfortunately, my music is taking the back seat. I love creating music, but I really honestly in this moment do it more for the passion and love. And when you need to build an economic structure for your family, but for my career, as you know, it's always been the long road. It's always been clawing to the top of the mountain and getting kicked off when you're at the top.
Man.
So, but these are the things that are going amazing. YouTube has changed the game. Well, it's funny because I've had my channel for like 16 years. I think I put my first music video, but the reactions are what are triggering things in people to come to my channel, and that has been built within the last 6 or 8 months. Man. And it's become a total stream of revenue, a lifeline. And the idea that I had 2 years ago is lean into YouTube, build my credentials, accolades, influence, and utilize that to create some type of media empire where it's multiple channels, whatever. I want to be a dominant presence in the YouTube face creating. And when I say creating right now, I'm using reactions to build up an audience, curate that audience to get them to original content. Some of it's music, but I'd like to do like comedy sketches, like kind of Key and Peele, 1 minute to 3 minutes long.
I did check out that Santa comedy. Man, that was awesome. The freestyling Santa, that was dope, man.
Yeah, and so I want to go out in public, do little things like that, public interviews, and spread it out through channels so people can know where to get this specific type of media. But right now, it's getting people to trust me, trust my sense of humor with our 40-Year-Old FUQ Boys podcast, and then my music, etc., and then bridge out and create more media. And with that, I think the music will benefit from that. And then I'm going to still throw concerts until that dries up. I have a partnership with my buddy Travis, and we kind of do those promotions under Strong Survive Presents, and then BKG is like an arm of that. This year's been actually a little bit rough for concerts, so it's allowed me to laser focus on YouTube. This is something I never thought was possible. And the door is open for me, and I'm just like, I'm very blessed in this moment. I want to take the time to be grateful, but at the same time not slow down and really take this thing to, 250,000, 500,000, million subs. And
it's coming.
And
it's coming.
Be a force to be reckoned with.
Well, honestly, man, not only am I inspired, but many that are going to see this are going to be inspired, man, because it seems like one thing that we share is overcoming adversity. I know that we share, some common bonds with certain topics. So it's just an honor to have you on board with our first issue of 719 Magazine, Southern Colorado's music scene. We're going to cover the entire region, Southern Colorado. So this is for the entire 719 area code. We're going to different cities, and we're going to expose what people are doing artistically, musically, and we're just trying to bring all genres together. So for you to be a part of this, it really gives us that momentum. But any shout outs, man, anything you want to put out there to the universe that, is coming up? Anybody you want to mention, man?
Depending on when this releases, we have a really big concert with Hobson and Mercules, August 26th, the Sunshine Studios. It's an outdoor event. Tickets are flying. It's going to be another good one. And other than that, just watch out. Like, I'm one of the people who I don't like to say too much. I like to do too much. But I'm working, I'm not going to say I've totally innovated the space I'm in. What I would say is I do things differently, and that's why my channel's standing out. So I want to continue to do some different things. I think because I bring guests in to do reactions, and then because I've been able to bring in bigger artists to do reactions as well, that's kind of let my channel lead this kind of charge. I see people like Aiden Ross's, and they're bringing on Tory Lanez and stuff, and I think I do something similar at a smaller level, but my goal is to grow that. and I have a lot of really good relationships, a lot of really good people batting for me. So the next thing I will tell you is we're going to get into a different office building, have this a little bit bigger, and be able to up the production. You know, that's my goal, is to up the production so I can bring in guests and be in an environment that's suitable to bring on the type of stars I'd like to bring on the program.
Right on. Well, that's good to hear. But I do want to give shouts out, to Black Pegasus, the legendary Black Pegasus, Brass Knuckles Entertainment, Strong Survive Presents. Got to give a big shout out to my man Scorp Diesel, Diesel Music. I'm going to put it on Diesel Music. And also big shout out to Limelight Media, team at Limelight Media right now, really stepping in and getting this magazine underway. It's an honor to have you on board with us for our first issue. I know there'll be many more conversations and maybe even more articles. So we are proud of you, and you inspire us, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. And I want to shout out Scorp Diesel, too, because for him being from the turf, I don't really, other than like his immediate circle and followers, sometimes I don't think the turf understands like what he has done, what he's accomplished, where he's at.
It's coming soon.
Yeah, and I just like, bro, and this is what excites me, because there's these figures that I grew up with, and I didn't know Scorp like that. I know he worked with Bass Jace, but I've always had that respect for him. But Scorp, Adrian Swish, that's just crazy, and it's all coming from this pocket. It's not coming, and not Denver is popping. We got Trev Rich. We got K-Tone. We got a bunch of gems.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to remember, like, this is my turf. This is the people I grew up with seeing. And when I'm seeing people like Scorp Diesel with platinum plaques, I'm like, oh, let's go. Let's go.
Ray
That's
Shrummer,
that inspiration.
Montana,
yeah, absolutely.
He really exposed me to the industry in a unique way. But we're going to bring a lot of platforms together this year. This being one of them, because what you're doing right now is a lighthouse for the city right now, man. And we appreciate you. So thank you so much, man.
Oh yeah, man. All love.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dirty Limelight.